Hello, I'm Tom Harmer, your town manager. Thank you for joining us today for this edition of Talk of the Town. I'm here today with Kelli Smith, the new police chief for the town of Longboat Key. Thank you for joining me.
Thank you for having me.
So we're excited here in the town of Longboat Key to introduce our new chief of police, Kelli Smith. Before we do that, I'll put it in a little bit of context. The police chief serves as one of the 8 department heads in the town that reports directly to the town manager. When Pete Cummings retired, effective October 23rd, we went through a very extensive process to select the next chief of police. We had over 60 applications from across the country. We went through a process and narrowed that down ultimately to 5. The final 5 were interviewed by a panel that included myself, but also the sheriff from Manatee County, the police chief from the city of Sarasota, and the police chief from Northport. And as a result of that process, we selected Kelli to be our next chief. There's a series of other things that she had to go through to complete the conditional offer process. All of that was successfully completed, and here we are today on her first day. So, Kelli, let's start off. It'd be helpful for the residents to hear a little bit about your law enforcement background.
Sure. I started actually in corrections with the Broward Sheriff's Office. Being a Florida native, that's where I was born and raised. Spent several years there and spent several years in corrections before crossing over into law enforcement, where I spent the vast majority of my career with the University of Central Florida, the police department located there. I retired in January 2017 and was effectively named chief of police for the Northern Arizona University in Flagstaff, where I spent the last 3 years before getting the opportunity for this wonderful position.
Well, we're glad you're back in Florida.
Me too.
and obviously most of your career was in Florida, but I think your total years of law enforcement service so far is 29?
Correct. I started when I was 2, so that makes me 31.
Okay. All right. Understand. Oh, good. And so what's your educational background? Can you share a bit of that with the residents as well?
So I have my bachelor's degree and a master's degree that I received from the University of Central Florida in criminal justice with a minor in public administration. I've been fortunate enough to receive extensive command officer development school, the women's leadership and law enforcement courses, so a lot of professional growth and development courses as well.
Very good. And I know the last 2 organizations you worked for or with, University of Central Florida, where most of your career was, but also as chief in Northern Arizona at the Northern Arizona University, you worked through the accreditation process, where both of those agencies were accredited police departments. Can you explain a little bit about what that is?
Absolutely. UCF is Florida PAC accredited, and Northern Arizona University is CALIA accredited. And what they are is they're the bodies that come in and review police practices for best standards. So it sets an agency up, but the community as well, to have a level of service and a standard of service and an expectation that can be fulfilled. But in addition to that, other analysis is done and assessors come in and review and make sure that you're actually putting your money where your mouth is. You're doing these best practices by providing proofs and having them come in and review and evaluate everything that you're doing.
Good. And I think what interests me with the accreditation process, and I've worked through accreditation in other agencies and departments, is that really deep level of internal review in all of the policies and documents and planning efforts really does help gear towards a best practice operation.
It does. It's another way to use your policies to set your team up for success, quite frankly. And when your policies are in line and they're evaluated, and then your practices are aligned and evaluated, even when you have those moments of, we may have a problem on our hands, it gives you the opportunity to reflect on what you're doing and how to continue to improve. Because as society changes and expectations change, practices have to change. So it really is just a good way to keep your finger on the pulse of your organization.
Yeah, and I think whether we become accredited or not in the near term, the benefit of your experience will be helpful for the department as we review our current operations and procedures.
Yeah, absolutely. I agree with you. I just find that it is a way to be in line with what's happening, with some of the things that have occurred on the national front. I was able to go back and look at my policies and see that we were already in line with some of the demands that were being, requested of law enforcement. We were already doing those best practices, and it put me in a position of ease to know that we were giving that level of service to the community that I served.
So, 26 years in Florida, 3 years in Arizona. How did you become interested in the town of Longboat Key?
So I actually had my mom come visit me for several months, and I had to bring her home, and I was really sad, and I wanted to come home. I've been wanting to come home. And so as I left her, I actually that day looked on the Florida Police Chiefs Association. I saw the posting, and I was like, this has got to be it. And then I looked up the town, and I saw everything the town had to offer, and I saw the quality of life and the agency and the organization, and it just felt like the time was right, the organization was right, and that I could add value. I could bring a different perspective and a different energy to something that's already great and make it expand and stretch some elasticity in the agency and give to the community.
Well, good. Well, today's your first day, so I won't ask you for a full assessment of the town or of the police department. But any thoughts now that you're here on Longboat Key? A first, reaction to the town?
Yeah, there's a ton of things that I'm taking in. The biggest thing is I just can't wait to get engaged with the community. I can't wait to talk to people and find out what their thoughts are, what their feelings are, because what's good for resident A may not be good for resident B or visitors. And I know there's, things that pop up that are important to each individual person and it affects them. So for me, that integration and outreach into the community, that's what I'm savoring the opportunity for.
Good, and customer service is such an important part of what we do in all the departments and our interaction with the public. And they've been very supportive of the town, the police department, the fire department, our public works department. And so I think you have plenty of opportunity to interact and to also help us set that bar high on that customer service part.
Yeah, I'm excited for the opportunity and to be a good listener.
Yeah, good. So anything about personal interest or hobbies that you want to share with the public?
Yeah, I love being outside. So where I was in northern Arizona, it's snowing today. I would not be outside unless I was shoveling snow. So for me, if it's running, walking, hiking, being at the beach, anything of that nature, I just love being outside. And when I get that opportunity, that's where I want to be.
Well, I know after the interview process and we talked about the offer and joining the team, you made some comment about if I needed to find you, I might want to check with Marine Patrol because you may be out on the boat.
That's it. I said Chief needs to order shorts.
Yes. So any closing comments for our residents and the public about this new opportunity and you being part of the team?
Yeah, actually, I would just like to say that I recognize I'm coming into an organization that was very well run, and Chief Cummings was highly valued in the community. And oftentimes, that's actually a harder position to fill than an agency that has issues, because the bar's low. So I recognize that. I respect everything that he's done, and he and I will continue to work closely and talk with each other. But I just want people to feel like I'm available, I'm accessible, I'm transparent, and to not be afraid to call and let's have a conversation.
Very good. Well, thank you. Thank you for the opportunity to help us introduce you to the town and to our residents. I know I've talked to a number of the residents and they're looking forward to meeting you and looking forward to a continued high level of service from our police department. So thank you again, and thank you for joining us today for this edition of Talk of the Town.